Thank you so much for the introduction, Chantal, and welcome to our presentation. Today, we'll be talking about data-driven strategies for safer cycling in Toronto. So before I begin, I just want to get a feel of the room. Who here likes to cycle in Toronto? Okay. Oh, yeah. Superior mode of transport. Definitely. And who here thinks that the city of Toronto is a good city to cycle in? Oh, I'm hearing much less hands raised. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, finding strategies to improve Toronto to make it safer for cyclists. Let's see how to there we go. So this is our team. We're a group of business analytics students from Seneca College. Candice here has been marketing coordinator for different FMCG companies in Hong Kong. I myself have gone through the startup ecosystem, so startups, venture capital, accelerators, just looking at how to build a business from 0 to 1. And Yuseung here has done market research for many different Korean companies, and she's been in the business accelerator space as well. Second.
Recording in progress.
Great. So by the end of this presentation, I hope there will be 3 major takeaways. First is why and where cycling. First is when, why, and where cycling accidents are happening in Toronto. What the city of Toronto is doing about it. And what recommendations the collision data tells us to improve the situation in Toronto. So the reason why we're able to stand here in front of you today is that we joined the SAS Safe Roads competition and we have emerged as the champion team. This is an analytics competition for university and college students to improve road safety in Toronto through data analysis. We were able to present our findings towards the Toronto Police Service, and they thought our recommendations were good enough to be the champion team, at least. Thank you. Yeah, so how are we able to do this? We looked at 4 main data sets, and this was on the collision. 2 of them were on the collision data, sort of like when and where these collisions are happening. We looked at the bike share ridership and also where the cycling network is in Toronto. This is an example of the data we worked with. And the Toronto Police Service has this really comprehensive dashboard on where these collisions are happening and also what type of collisions they are. Tonight, we'll be talking about 4 things. First is why we chose to study cyclists in the first place. Second, we will be talking about the background on cyclist behavior before moving on to the why the collisions occur, and also we'll finish off with the summary and recommendations. So why have we chosen to study cyclists? We can see that the number of collisions has steadily increased each year since the pandemic. Meanwhile, the total number of collisions has actually fallen in Toronto by 15% in the same period of time. So why is this happening? This comes as no surprise when we look at the growing demand for bike share, for bicycle rides in Toronto. In 2023, we can see there are 6 million bike rides on the bike share platform alone. And this is really alarming because when a cyclist gets in an injury, when a cyclist gets in an accident, there's a 68% chance of them getting into an injury. Meanwhile, for people who drive cars or they ride motorcycles, they only have around a 12% chance of an injury. And we can see that cyclists just don't have the protection that the other modes of transport brings. And this increases the chance for serious injury. We aim to support the Vision Zero initiative by the Toronto Police Service and improve safety for the most vulnerable user types. Next, I'll pass the time on to Candice to talk more about the background and the cyclist behavior.
Thanks, Keith. So to begin with, let me ask a question. Which month do you think most bicycle collision happen? Any answer? Yes?
March.
Good guess. How about Alice? Yep.
Well, I think no, like it does the October, there's something like the September to the October. There's some of the period to the close to the winter, then the surge the accident, I believe.
I heard just some people about July. Okay, let's see our the answer we have. So it is in summer and autumn. We found that from 2019 to 2024, June to September has the most bicycle collisions, and September get the most, and followed by the August, July, and June. And all of these months have over 600 collisions report, probably because the weather is good for cycling. So let's look into what time most bicycle collisions happen. We found that 5 p.m. is the peak of bicycle collision take place, which takes about 1,000 cases in the past 5 years. And 3, 4, 6 p.m. take the second, third, and fourth place respectively, and all of them have over 700 cases. After knowing the time of collisions, you may also wonder where does the accident happen. Let's see it. All of the blue spot marked here are where the bicycle collision takes place in the past 5 years. So we can see the downtown area has more collisions reported than the non-center area of Toronto. Here we look at the top 10 locations of bicycle collision. The street with the highest number of collisions is College Street and University Avenue, with 29 cases in total. And the second one goes to Dundas Street and Spadina Avenue. And the third highest is again the College Street and Spadina Avenue with 27 reports. So therefore, we can conclude that they frequently occur in Spadina Avenue, College Street, and University Avenue, and most of them are in intersection. So why does bike collisions happen? The first reason is lack of traffic control. Here explain a bit how we come up with this reason. We look into the cyclist condition and also the reason for bicycle collision. And most of the case report that the cyclists are in normal condition and only a few of them are inattentive. And among those cyclists who are in normal condition, a few of them have improper turn or disobey to the traffic rule, etc. And the majority is driving properly. So why collisions happen if cyclists are still driving properly? It is interesting, right? So we further look at it. We dig into the causes of those driving properly, and we found that there's no any traffic control. What does it mean by the traffic control? It refers to anything that directs the flow of cyclists, including some special road rate marking or sign. And we further deep dive into the next slide to see the details of the accident. Here we can see that the bike collisions happen in a way that where cyclists and driver are traveling in the same direction and one vehicle sides with others. And cyclists are across motorist path and vice versa. Cyclists drive on pedestrian also is one of the reasons for the bicycle collisions. And some accidents actually show the shared responsibilities of road users. These cases demonstrate the necessity to add traffic control to minimize the accident resulting from some road users' misjudgment. Here we locate the more than 3 collisions where the no traffic control is implemented and where lack traffic control on the road that leads to bicycle collisions. For example, the Spadina Avenue and the Eastern Avenue. We make recommendation accordingly to address in the later section. Here I will pass time to Lee to talk about another reason for the bicycle collisions.
Thank you, Candice. Yeah. From the Candice presentation, we discovered one of the main reasons of the bicycle collisions is the lack of the traffic control. So what could be the second factor for the collisions? So our team hypothesized that collisions may be related with the cycling networks. Now, this map shows the 7 different types of cycling network internal. And we can see the red line and orange lines are dominant in the downtown area. And red lines represents the cycle track and orange line is the bike lane. So we are going to focus on that 2 lines. So on that 2 lines, we overlap the bicycle collisions data on the map to analyze spatial relationship between them. So this blue circles shows where is the collisions happened, and the size of the blue circles means the frequency of the collisions. So we can see the bicycle collisions mainly occurred horizontally in a series. It's aligned with the red line, which is cycle track. And interestingly, it is also corresponds to the streetcar network internal. And we found out one more issue of the cycling network internal. Interestingly, the collisions, we can see many collisions happened at the intersection. It's from so we found out it's collisions happen from inadequate integration between vertical tracks and the horizontal tracks. So these 7 yellow color lines highlight the locations where the collisions happened, but lack of the bicycle network. So it includes the Spadina Avenue and Bathurst Street and Queen Street that Candice mentioned it earlier. Then let's take a closer look in detail with Google Street View. Yeah, this is one of the streets in the yellow highlighted line. Can you see the 2 cyclists? It's too small. Yeah, but we can see there is no cycle track after the intersection. And even we can see it's a streetcar network line as well. And there is also the cars parked in the sideway. So these cyclists, I think they are required to use the same lane as cars, and then they have to escape the vehicle parked. So yeah, this is one of the example. The second line, I remember it was it's Young Street. And we see that one cyclist are using the road for vehicle. And actually there is one more, but it's quite black at theirs, but there is one more are using the pedestrian because there's no cycle track on the road. Let's see one more. And there's this one is Church Street, and of course there is under construction on the road. And this cyclists also need to escape the construction area, and there's no cyclist network on the road. So yeah, the cyclist also using the road for vehicle. So I think with this example, we can see it's not quite favorable environment for the cyclists. Yeah, so far we have identified 2 factors contributing bicycle collisions. And one is the lack of the traffic control. And the second was the insufficient integration between cycling networks. So we are going to consider bike share station might be related with the collisions of bicycle. This round circle shows the bike station where the cyclists start and end their journey. And this red highlighted line is the cycle track that we saw it before. And we can see there are many brown circle lines are overlapped on the cycle track. Conversely, this one is a bike lane, it's a vertical line. This one is compared with the cycle track before, it's not much covered the bike stations. So we can conclude that the placement of the bike share stations correlate with the frequency of collisions on cycle tracks. Wait. Okay. Okay, just focus my, yeah, there are findings that we found, yeah, from the analysis. Yeah, downtown is where most bicycle collisions happened in Toronto. And we found out three main factors are correlated with the bicycle collisions in downtown. First one was the lack of the traffic control. And second one was the insufficient connectivity between cycle track and the bike lane. So confused, yeah. And then lastly was the bike share. The placement of the bike shares are also correlate with the bicycle collisions. So these three factors also affect to the safety of the cyclists. Yeah, this is the analysis part, and I will pass to the Keith for the recommendations.
Thank you, Leah. So we came to three major recommendations to improve the safety of cyclists in Toronto. So the first one would be to improve cycling infrastructure. This is a must. And this is to integrate the cycling network so that people don't just drive behind a car or on the street. Second would be to cooperate with bike sharing companies. And this would be to try and see if they could place bike share stations on lower collision density areas so that people can more safely start and end their journeys. And last, we would recommend to improve information sharing so that cyclists can decide, make more informed decisions on which route they should take to cycle on. So from all that we've said, there's a really immediate need to integrate the cycling infrastructure. As we can see, the cycling network is quite scattered, making it difficult for people to move from the horizontal lanes to the vertical ones. So this is when people choose to take a risk and they choose to drive on the street. And this is also where a lot of the collisions happen in the areas with poor or no infrastructure. We would recommend to integrate the cycling network on these 7 streets, covering Bathurst Street, Spadina Avenue, and Yonge Street. And this is a closer look on of the cycling network and also where our proposed network will be. So why did we choose these places to put our cycling network? Well, the start and end position of these roads have over 20 bicycle collisions in the last 5 years. And a lot of these roads have many more. It's just that 20 was our base case in making this and proposing this network. But let's see what the city of Toronto is actually doing to address this safety of cyclists in Toronto. So Toronto has a near-term implementation plan for building cyclist networks in the Toronto to East York region and also a few other regions. So if we look at the implementation plan, they have quite a few cycling infrastructure projects that are underway and also under study. And if we plot this onto our collision map, we can see that the current implementation plan does address some key collision sites. But it also misses the ones that are not covered by the cycling tracks, particularly along the horizontal areas, where we see a lot of the cycling accidents are happening in areas with no infrastructure. And if we put our proposed network and the near-term implementation plan together, we can see some similarities and differences. Our proposed network is from a collision perspective, and their near-term implementation plan may have more different factors of consideration, like their infrastructure. And we can see the proposed network does have some similarities on Palmerston Boulevard and also Yonge Street. But our proposed network, while we didn't factor in the infrastructure consideration, it's also important to note that the city of Toronto has been looking into this for quite a period of time. their long-term implementation plan has a cycling impact analysis score. And they basically scored all the streets of Toronto, looking at things such as the current and potential cycling demand, as well as other infrastructure considerations like trip generators, transit access, connectivity, etc., etc. And they ranked these from a low to high cycling impact score. We can see that the cycling network that we propose has a strong need for this infrastructure, because if we put the cycling impact scores onto our map, we can see that it's mainly made of high to top analysis scores, and it really reinforces the need for this infrastructure. Next, I'll pass on the time to Candice to talk more of the recommendations.
Thanks, Keith. As we can see from our previous analysis, one of the factors of leading the bike collision is lack of traffic control. Therefore, there's a need to increase the traffic control in areas that have higher numbers of collisions due to no traffic control. Adding a sign such as the current one, we can let our cyclists to know which lane is customized for them and which roads are safer for them to use. By having new designs such as watch for bike or watch for turning traffic, this can alert other road user and pedestrian about the cyclist to minimize the accident happen. Second, we recommend a cooperation with bike sharing company to place the bike sharing station in lower density collision area to divert cyclists from busy areas. As we can see in the data, there is more bike sharing station on the cycle track rather than the bike lane. So that will be more dangerous for cyclists to use. And this one will be kind of like better to protect them by relocating some bike sharing station. So another recommendation we have made is improve the information sharing by developing an app. And in the app, rather than suggesting route in terms of the efficiency, the app should suggest the safest route based on the traffic collision data and the cycling track type. Moreover, the app should advise cyclists to bike on north based on factors like the visibility, the weather, the humidity, so that cyclists can make a more better decision. For long term, it is recommended to do more on education and promotion of cycling safety. Not only can we emphasize on the importance of obeying the traffic rules by fair approach across different channels, but also we can educate people on the current or new signage in the proposed app so that they can understand what the signage stands for and be reminded when they do the cycling. So while defensive riding is a very important concept in bike safety, it is recommended to promote it through different ways too. And last but not least, our app also should educate our people on the proper action, like to stop or turn left, so that they can know how to give hint to other road users when they want to turn, to minimize some accident or crash resulted from unclear intention among cyclists and other road users. Here I'll pass the time to Keith to have a wrap up of the presentation.
So if there are three things to take away from tonight, it would be when, why, and where the cycling accidents are happening in Toronto. We can see that most of the cycling accidents happen in June to September, which is coming up. And there are three reasons that we found that contribute to this number of cycling accidents in Toronto. First will be the lack of traffic control. There's also a lack of connectivity between the cycling networks. And last of all, there's the distribution of bike share stations in high density collision areas, makes it suspiciously correlated to the number of collisions in Toronto. What the city of Toronto is doing about it? So they have a near-term implementation plan in place where they're studying different cycling networks, and they've also put into place new cycling infrastructure. They've also done cycling impact feasibility studies. and we were able to base that off in our proposed network. Last of all, what recommendations the collision data shows to improve the situation? And this is where our 3 recommendations come into play. First is to integrate the cycling infrastructure. Second would be to cooperate with the bike sharing companies in putting the bike share stations in lower density areas. And last of all, to improve information sharing and make an app not just based on the distance towards your next destination, but also account for some of the cycling collisions in Toronto. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. We would love to stay connected, and we have some LinkedIn QR codes up here if you want to connect, and we would love to discuss more on this topic.